Effective communication is at the core of every healthy marriage. In this episode, we are going to share with you how we understand communication and what we did to improve our communication skills.
Hi everybody, welcome to Mike and Christelle podcast, where family meets faith and fun. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. We believe that when family is healthy, the nation is healthy.
Early in our marriage, we felt the need to work on our communication skills. We were about to make a decision to move to Tanzania. So that was our second move since our wedding. And we were also expecting our second baby. So these were quite two big decisions to make. But also on top of that, we had the day-to-day family discussions to have. So we felt like we needed to have a strategy on how to communicate well to avoid unnecessary argument or unnecessary conflict in our marriage.
Yeah. So we realized that we always communicate, even when we decide to keep quiet. That silence says or communicates something.
Yeah.
We are going to tell you how we view communication and how our understanding helped us refine our communication skills.
For us, we believe that communication has three parts.
Yeah.
It's three parts or three pieces in every communication you make, in every message you send. There are three pieces.
Yeah.
One is the sender of the message, the one who is communicating in this case. The second is the receiver of the message, the one who is receiving, the one who is on the other end of the message. Yeah. And the third piece is the actual message that is being communicated. Yeah. So we have the sender, we have the message, and we have the receiver. But it's not just about sending a message and receiving a message.
Yeah.
Every time one person communicates, every time I communicate to my wife, I code my message. I code my message, and the way I code my message depends on my culture, depends on my personality, it depends on my life experiences, it depends on my family patterns, it depends on so many things. The way I frame my messages. And the way we also decode the messages, it also depends on my family, my background, my experiences, my culture. So all that helps us to decode messages and code messages. So we don't simply communicate. Yeah. We always code. We all have a style and the way we frame our communication. Yeah. Even the way we say I love you, we frame it in our culture, cultural personality background. And it was important for us to understand how we code and decode our messages. Yeah. We code our messages through a particular language. For example, using French, English, that Swahili. Is a code. Swahili, Kinyarwanda, Kiganda, Lingala, Lingala, Kibembe. When you code in Kibembe, people understand easily.
I don't understand Kibembe.
That's my mother tongue. Yeah. And our body language is the way we code messages. Yeah. Our tone is a coding the way we code messages. Our tone, if you are sending a text, you can use emojis. That's a code. You can use capital letters. You can use
exclamation marks.
Or small letters. Yeah. All those are way you can use slang. All those are way we code messages, and we all have ways that we are used to code our messages. Yeah. The way we interpret, the way we decode messages also, we hope to understand your emoji. When my wife sends me an emoji, she hope I will decode that emoji and understand what I said.
Which you do.
We do. And the worst thing that can happen is when you send a message and the person does not decode it the way you coded it, and they start to act and react based on their decoding, their interpretation of the message, instead of decoding what you sent, the way you coded it.
Yeah.
So the burden is not only to the person who is coding, the burden is also to the person who is decoding. Both of you have the responsibility to be aware of what is happening in every communication.
Not only the responsibility to be aware, but we decided to each learn our own way of coding and decoding, and learn each other's way of decoding and coding messages.
Yes. The way I code interest, for example, is to speak on top or to speak while my wife is talking.
Yeah.
So that means if she's talking to me and I speak back and I keep talking while she's talking at the same time, that's noise shows interest. That's how I was brought up.
Yeah.
In our home, it was noisy. When we're on the table or when people are talking, the conversations were very noisy. Everybody's talking at the same time. That shows interest.
Yeah.
But for her, it's completely different.
For me, it's
look, that's...
For me, it's completely different. When I'm talking, I want him to keep quiet and not say anything until I finish. Yeah, which is what he's doing now. You can talk now. There we go. Well
yes, so I'm not used to that. To wait until she finishes doesn't show interest.
Yeah.
That's how I decode interest. That's how I decode interest. If I'm talking and I expect her to talk with me at the same time. Another way that I code my messages is I structure every conversation. I structure my even expression of love. I will start from left to right, up to, everything I say, every conversation is in points. Introduction, development, point A, B, C, D, and conclusion.
Yeah.
That's how I talk. That I speak in points, structured.
Yeah.
Which is completely different from my wife.
I don't speak in point. I say whatever. I mean, not whatever, but I'm more of a flow. I just flow with whatever.
Go with things as
they
they
are.
are.
The flow.
Can be talking about this, and then we go to that,
Yes.
and then we go to that, and we go back to this.
In the same
As long as
perspective.
we covered everything that we feel we should cover, we are fine. And we needed to understand that at the beginning, because I was expecting her to structure everything.
Yeah.
And just gave up and say, okay, let's just
learn how each one of us functions, how we
code
and
messages.
decode.
For example, my wife, when she's unhappy, she may keep quiet and be silent for some time.
Yeah.
And I've learned to learn that silence as
something
is happening. I'm in trouble.
What did I do?
What did I do?
What did I do? What did I do?
No, that was a joke. I know. We always say what did I do is a joke.
Yeah.
But it's a way I now decode her silence. I know she's unhappy when I see a bit of, and on my side, the way
I know he's tired.
Yes.
Very tired when he's like, I call it emotionless. He's
Yes.
just doing, talking. There's no emotion on this beautiful face here with no emotion. Yeah.
Yes, when I'm tired, I just use my cognitive side of the brain. Like everything go in principles.
Yeah.
Like I know what to do. I keep doing it, and all my emotions
Gone on the
put
window.
aside.
Yeah.
So if you want a emotional conversation at that time, wrong time.
Wrong timing. So we've learned that there is no effective communication unless there is understanding.
Yes.
What does that mean there? Explain properly.
You
what
need
that
to
means.
explain properly.
I need to explain properly.
Yes.
So when I'm trying to tell him something,
Yes.
I need to make sure he's understanding what I'm trying to say, which means I need to go extra mile to try to explain to him what I'm saying so that he understands. So on my side, I need to be willing to go extra mile because I want him to get the point.
Yes.
And on his side, he needs to be willing to
Go extra mile to decode.
to decode what I'm trying to code.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is important because until or unless there is understanding, and unless my wife understand what I was trying to say, then I haven't communicated.
Yeah.
Or let's say I haven't communicated effectively. So if the way I coded the message was not clear, or the way she decoded the message was wrong and clear, then we haven't communicated clearly, so effectively. So our effort is to always make sure the way I code my message is clear, and the way she decoded it is clear. So this takes commitment on both sides. When I'm talking, when she's speaking, when she's talking to me, am I decoding what she's saying? So there is goodwill to be able to understand the coding on her side, to try to understand. So we've put together some strategies to help us to code and decode messages in a right way, so that we can avoid misunderstanding, because we know when there is no understanding, there is no communication. For us, that's our principle.
So the first one is to avoid premature evaluation. What that means is we try not to assume we understand until we do. So if I'm telling you something, I make sure I don't, or if you are telling me something, I try to listen and to not assume anything, not assume that I know what he's trying to say, or I've heard that before, or this is how he usually says this kind of thing. So I try hard to just have wait until you finish, so I can judge whatever you were trying to say.
And the second one is to avoid implosion or explosion.
Big one.
Yes, because most of the time, because you know or you assume, you go back to the cell, we can judge the message, you explode, you begin to yell, or you begin to, you overreact. We try to avoid that. In fact, in our relationship, we've decided not to yell at each other. So from the very beginning, we were still dating when we agreed no yelling. So we never yelled at each other. We never raised our voices to each other. We just talk. It doesn't matter how angry you are. If you can't talk, then wait until you will just talk.
Say, Holy Spirit, help me.
Yes, just talk to each
Holy
other.
Spirit,
It doesn't mean we don't feel the pressure to yell.
Yes,
we do feel the pressure to yell. We feel. No, for me, it's just, I'm a good man. We don't yell at each other. I don't remember a day that my wife yelled at me for the last 16 years. I don't remember a day that we yelled at each other. I don't remember it. So this is true. Like, I can testify this, because we decided from the very beginning.
No yelling.
Talk. No yelling. No screaming. No shouting. Screaming when I'm hurt. When I'm hurt. Screaming and yelling, they're different. So we also try to avoid implosion.
And in my case, because that was my biggest issue, implosion is I would go quiet if I'm upset. That means I'm not giving him a chance to know what's going on. So I decided to try and open up and say what's upsetting me, like what I want to say, what's going on in my heart, so that he can have a chance to do something about it, or repair, or so that we can talk about it and it just can go away. So silence doesn't help. So we decided no implosion or explosion. And another strategy we use in our communication is we pay attention to context. Because every conversation happens in a context, in a particular context. Every word you say is in a particular context. So if you don't consider the context, you may think the person is talking about yesterday or the day before yesterday or what happened last year, while it's just about today. For example, my wife, I went to drop, on Saturday, I went to drop my son to a birthday party. And I came back home. My wife didn't see me coming back. So when she came, she asked me. This is what I said. I wish I could say it in Swahili, but I said it in Swahili. But this is what I said.
In English.
I'm translating here. So I said, did you take him there? Or
Did
no?
you?
Did you did
Get
you
him there.
Did you get him there?
Yes.
And then that's not what I wanted to say. That's not what I meant. I wanted to say, did you go there? Did you enter into the house? Did you
Yeah.
say hi to people? How many people were there? I just
Yeah.
was saying, hey, tell me some stuff here. But I said, did you get him there? And he said,
No, I left him on the
no, I left
road.
him on the road. I was like,
I left him halfway. Because how can you ask me that a question? If I got him there. Yeah, of course I did. I was taking him there. I got him there. We arrived at the place. We did arrive. And I walked him to the house. I said hello to the people. So the question in that context was, because I know how she codes her questions and her messages, and I understood the context, I knew she's not asking if I left my son on the road or halfway. So I knew that so it's always important to pay attention to context.
Yeah.
And stay within the context.
Yeah.
Because when you remind of yesterday and the day before, and you just bring confusion, always consider which context are we in here, so that this coding may fit. Always decode every conversation in the context.
Yeah. Another thing is we pay attention to timing.
Yeah.
In this case, when my husband is tired, very tired, which means this beautiful face here, no emotion, that's not the time for me to tell him, things that are serious.
Yeah, I don't think that's the time to ask me questions that require explanation. That require,
Yeah, and like you've had a long day with meetings.
Yes.
And this has helped us because we work together. We've been working together since we started, dating.
Yes.
And now you obviously, I report to you.
Yes.
So
at work, my wife is her direct report at church. So I have, for example, on Tuesdays now I have 9 meetings in a day. 9 meetings.
So
in
that
one day.
evening, that's not the day where I need to tell him about so many stuff that that's not the day to make you explain stuff, because you had meetings where you had to kind of listen and talk.
I want to come home on Tuesdays, watch some funny videos on laugh.
Yeah.
Just don't ask me questions. Why did we do this? Why didn't we do that? I don't know why. On Tuesday, I don't know why.
Yeah.
I will explain on Wednesday. So timing.
Yeah. Timing is very, very important.
Timing.
Yeah.
Effective communication begins with knowing your coding and decoding limitations, to know how you code yourself and to know how you decode messages, what influences your understanding, how do you read people's attitude or your spouse attitude. And the same thing, you need to understand your like for me, my wife, I've learned to understand how she codes messages and how she decodes messages. Because we've come to know really how we code and decode.
Yes, we do.
It has helped us to communicate and get to understand each other. So the message doesn't get lost into the coding and decoding. Because sometimes you may say, I love you, but the way you coded it and the way the other person decoded it gets to the other side as maybe I don't care.
It doesn't mean
I love you anymore. Simply because of the way it was coded and the way it was decoded. So we need to be careful in our talking to understand, this is how she codes her messages or his messages. And you will be able to understand the message if you understand the person's style of coding and decoding.
So guys, we hope you like this one. Please subscribe and share with your friends and family. Again, we believe that when family is healthy, the nation is healthy. See you next time. Bye.